We are all entering the room. Here we go. Okay, let me just set this up just so that it's all sharing on the right place.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, I hope you're all doing well. So this is week 1. Here we go. Let me just add a few more people into the room. So we'll try and keep this to the 45-minute window. Let's hope we stick to that. So let's jump to here. So welcome, guys. So I am Matt. I am the founder, if you like. It sounds very posh and fancy, that doesn't it? I started my property business about 5 years ago. We got involved in rent to rent right from the start, grew a sizable portfolio. We've since then gone on to do buy to lets, grade 2 listed, planning gain, and a whole host of other things. At the moment, we have a sourcing company, a coaching company, a buy to let company, and our management company. So we've got a lot going on, a wealth of experience. My history is I've come from I was a ship's captain by trade, so I've come from that side of life, if you like, travel, seeing the world, being away from home all the time. But yeah, I had a little girl, and that was the end of that. I had to find something that could get me on land, off the boats, and seeing my little girl, essentially. And this is what did it for me. The world of Airbnb, the world of rent to rent. That's what got me back on dry land and home every single evening, every single morning. I get to take my daughter to school every day, which is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Most days. I'll caveat that a bit. Okay, so this is a 13-week series. Okay, you're joining on week 1. It's going to be hosted the same time every single week in the same fashion. So please, if you're watching this on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are, please keep an eye out for it every single week. If you're within the Zoom room already, you'll get links to rejoin this every week as we go through. The idea behind this is, and if you stay with us for the full 13 weeks, it's to give you the tools and the knowledge to build as big an Airbnb business as you want. You know, you can have 1 or 2 units that just give you enough to go on an extra holiday a year, or a couple of holidays, or buy you a new car or whatever it is. Or you can completely transform your life and go away, build a massive portfolio of rent-to-rents, Airbnbs, whichever one you want to go down, and completely change your life, kick the boss, leave your job, and essentially become more time-free. You will notice throughout the 13 weeks, I mentioned time-free and not financially free, because I don't personally believe that exists. You know, I'm time-free now, yes, but I'm not financially free, because I can't go and sit on a beach for 2 years and do absolutely nothing. And in my mind, that's what financial freedom is. So, as I said, if you stick with us, we will give you everything that you need. Spoiler alert, okay, we do have a mentoring and training program. This is a free webinar series that we're putting out. For those wise ones amongst you, I suppose, you will realize that this is designed to showcase who we are, give you an experience of our knowledge, our experience, give you the tools you need to go and do it on your own, but then also potentially talk to you over the 13 weeks and maybe see if we can work together, see if we can help you accelerate your journey and accelerate your path to take on more units quicker, more efficient, in the right way, and most importantly, completely legally, because there's a lot of people doing it illegally. Cool. Right, let's jump into the next slide. Oh, there we go. I missed that one out. So why rent to rent? We'll cover that off today. Setting up your business the right way, because there are so many people that do this the wrong way. Okay. Legal and compliance essentials. Financial tracking from day one. This one is absolutely vital. 0 to 5 figures in 12 months. What does that actually look like? Right? It sounds really fancy there on the screen, but what does it actually look like? And then real life wins. So our clients, our mentees, everybody else. And then what's next? That's coming up towards the end. I'm just going to open the window here because I'm already sweating. Apologies for that. So why rent to rent? Okay. Now, rent to rent, for those of you that maybe don't actually know what it is, okay, it's where we legally rent a property off a landlord and essentially sublet it to either Airbnb guests, or if it's a HMO, we let it to long-term tenants. Okay. Now, I say legally because we don't actually do this on a standard rental contract. Okay. If you're trying to do ASTs, which is what they are, then it's not legal. It's not right. It will catch you out at some point. You would be amazed how many lettings agents still try and get you to sign an AST. So please, if you go away and you try and get a deal right now and an agent tries to get you to sign an AST, please do not sign it. It has to be a company let agreement. But that's essentially what rent to rent is. Okay. In a nutshell, you rent a property, you rent it out for more. That's basically what it is. Why it works so well is you've got no mortgage requirements. Okay. So you haven't got to put down a hefty deposit. You haven't got to, go out to a bank and get a mortgage. You can do this completely direct to landlord. You build a relationship and then away you go. Okay. Quite often, no reference checks, no anything, right? You start with low capital. Now, I'll caveat that with the fact that you see all over social media that you can start with none of your own money. If you go out and try and find a rent to rent deal and get it for £0, you will be hunting for a long time. Okay. I have done it. I have taken on deals where they have cost me absolutely diddly squat, but they are very, very few and far between. And they are more likely to be HMOs than they are for Airbnb. Okay. What the low capital means is you can take on a unit. Let's say it's already furnished. You manage to negotiate the deposit down to zero or an insurance policy. You get the landlord down on rent. It doesn't take a lot. Then you're probably talking 3, 4, 5 grand. If you have to go in, you have to pay a full deposit. You have to furnish and decorate the whole thing. You have to do absolutely everything. Paint it nice, like my wall behind me here, right? All of that. Then it is going to cost you 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 grand. Okay. At the top end, depending on the size, the standard, the finish, and the demographic you're going for. If you're going for what we target, which is the contractor market, you don't need to go super high end. If you're going for a holiday let market, then yes, going above and beyond will drive your bookings. We are in a competitive industry, so you need to stand out. You need to, do something different. Okay, one of our mentees has just done up a unit, and he's put a massive, I don't even know what it's made of, China dog, if you like. And the whole Airbnb listing is written from the point of view of that dog, as if he is hosting them on their holiday, right? That dog's cost him quite a lot of money. The setup he's done on the property has cost him quite a lot of money, more so than just your basic Airbnb. But that is already driving bookings into his property over anybody else in the area. So you need to think, what extra can I do? Yes, it might cost you a couple of £100 more, but is that going to equate to £10, £15 more per night or more bookings, right? The fast setup and fast cash flow. If you go out now and you try and buy a buy-to-let, let's say, you're probably going to be hunting for a couple of months. You're going to be stuck in legals, conveyancing for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and then your refurb, and then eventually you get to put it out to the general market, whether it's a buy-to-let, standard AST, or if you put it on Airbnb. With rent to rent, I could pick up the phone tomorrow morning and I could have a deal done by the weekend. I could go in there and by Wednesday next week, I could have the property photographed, staged, and online, making money by the end of next week. So it is really, really fast, but only if you know what you're doing. Okay. I see time and time again, even this morning, I spoke to somebody and they were stuck. They've been trying to get rent to rent deals for over 6 months now, and they just have not managed to achieve it. And that's simply down to two things. One, they're not speaking to enough people. And two, where was I going with that one? Not speaking to enough people. I don't know. I can't remember what the second one was. Apologies for that. My brain went blank then. I was reading something else. There we go. Right. So what it can become. So each unit you should have, and you might see it all over social media, again, that a unit can make you £2,000 a month. Look, they are rare. Okay. What you need to be targeting is anywhere between 800 and 12, 13, 1400 profit, right? That's our bracket. That's what we're looking at. But there are caveats to that. Okay. We always want a unit to pay us back within a 10-month period. So then the rest of the contract's profit. Or if we have to hand it back at the end of 12 months, we've still made some sort of profit over that first year. Okay. So it has to pay you back and it has to break even at 50% occupancy. So it's not just the profit on the back end, there's other bits that you need to be thinking of. So generally speaking, that 800 to let's say £1,200, that will replace somebody's job, right, with 3 to 4 units, given the average UK salary in the UK. UK salary in the UK, there we go. So that's what initially people should be working towards, 3 to 4 units. Now, one of my mentees just secured a long-term 24-month booking, and that he's going to be profiting. If it only sleeps 3 in a month, he'll be profiting about £800. If it sleeps 4 in a month, then he'll be profiting about 12 or 13, maybe even £1,400. So it doesn't take a lot of those to replace somebody's income. Then once you get to sort of 5 units plus, that's when you start scaling. That's when you start growing the business, right? That's when you're starting to far surpass what you're currently earning, and you're starting to either, live a nicer lifestyle, or what we would recommend is reinvest in that money, right? Growing more, getting more rent-to-rent units, or pooling that money over several months and then start buying your buy-to-lets. So you've got the income from the rent-to-rents, which is paying you, plus you've got surplus income coming from your rent-to-rents, which you're pooling to then buy the assets. So you can see how this is such a great strategy for those that are starting out. Okay, let's jump on to the next slide. Slide number 3. Setting up your business the right way. Okay. Now, in the UK, rent to rent is a commercial activity. Okay. You're running a business. I see all day long people that are trying to do this without a limited company, or they're trying to be a sole trader. That's a gray area, right? You need to ensure that this is done and set up legally. So you have to have a UK business set up, UK business bank account. You have to pay taxes. You have to go through all of that. Okay. Now it's relatively simple to do it. Okay. As it says, you can't sign company let contracts personally, right? That's not possible. It has to be through a limited company. So you have to set yourself up correctly, right? Business bank accounts. On the screen there, you can see Tide. Now, Tide have a feature where you can set your business bank account and your company. Sorry, my brain's going this evening. I really do apologize. Your company and your business bank account up in one small transaction, right? They charge less than companies house do, and it's very, very simple process. And you've got a bank account and a business set up and done within a matter of days. Okay, so it is very, very simple to do it. As it says, it's £15 on Tide. It's £50 if you do it through Companies House. Okay, so you have to be compliant with that. What happens if you don't do that? Well, you have absolutely no protection, right? If you're not a limited company, you have no protection. If you've gone in there and signed a contract, one scenario is you get evicted. Okay. The other scenario is something goes wrong. The landlord tries to chase you for the money. And actually, because it's you personally and not your limited company, guess what? You're liable for the rent. You're liable for the bills. You're liable for the damages. Okay. Rather than your company. So always do it in a company. Okay. If you want to drop in the chat who already has a limited company, and if not, are you after this likely to go and set one up? Drop in the chat, guys. Or any questions, by the way. Any questions as we're going along, drop them in the chat and let's answer them as we go. Just going to mute that one. Sorry about that. Okay, so how are we doing on time? Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. So this one leads me on nicely to your legal and compliance essentials. Okay, now this one we're going to spend a little bit of time on because you need to know exactly what you're doing with this one. Okay, so we've already talked about the correct agreements, right? They need to be in place. You need to research and ensure that you're compliant with your local council and government restrictions. Now, this one is really, really important because certain councils if you're looking at doing rent to SA or Airbnb in general, certain councils such as York, okay, or certain areas in Manchester and Liverpool and Birmingham, councils are now starting to restrict the number of Airbnbs in those locations. So if you think, oh yeah, great, I found a property, let's go away and set it up as an Airbnb, and then you get an inspection or there's a complaint to the council or anything like that, then you are turfed out with absolutely no compensation, and you've spent 3, 4, 5 grand on furnishing the place, decorating it, and all the rest of it, and you're just out the door. Okay, so you have to make sure that you have the right documents in place and that you're compliant with the council. Okay, because it is council specific. Places like Manchester and Liverpool and Birmingham, they are only doing this in certain sections of the city. So make sure that your understanding of that is top notch. Do your research, understand what's going on, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, but please, if you see anything about selective licensing, that's pretty much what most councils are calling it, then that kind of indicates that you're not going to be able to run an Airbnb property in that area. The other thing that's coming into force at the moment, and councils are getting really, really uppity about it, is your larger Airbnbs. They are enforcing, shall we say, that they have HMO compliance. Now, technically, that's not true. It's not right. But a lot of the lettings agents have jumped on this bandwagon. And when you speak to the councils, they just go, well, yeah, we think they should. Right. I spoke to Chester Council recently, and that's exactly what they said. I don't know the answer, but I think they probably should. Well, that's not a guaranteed answer for me. But it's more the lettings agents that are sort of pushing that one forward. You need to ensure that the landlord knows exactly what you are doing with that property. Okay, that's another one. With some landlords, they'll understand. Yeah, sure, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I've got no problem with that. And then somebody will send them a link on their phone of their property looking all fancy and jazzy on Airbnb, and they'll go, whoa, 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 I don't want this, don't like that. And they'll get in touch with you, they'll complain, and again, out the door you go. Okay, so you need to have it in writing in the contract that the landlord understands what the property is going to be used for. Now, as I said, we concentrate on the contractor market, and therefore we don't always use platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com. I've got properties that have never been on Airbnb and Booking.com because they are always direct bookings, right? And we're only ever empty for a week at most, right? And then we get another 3 or 6 months booking it. But we need the ability to be able to put them on Airbnb, Booking.com for the interim, right? If we want to. So you'll get some landlords, some agents that will say, yeah, I've got absolutely no problem with that. But, with you doing short-term lets, but I just want contractors. I don't want weekend guests. I don't want all of that. Well, I'm really sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord. It's not going to work for me. I need the flexibility. Okay. If I'm going to guarantee your rent, if I'm going to make sure that I'm fully occupied as much as I possibly can be, I need to be able to be flexible with it. So if I get contractors, which is what I'm targeting, great. If I don't, and I need to resort to the Airbnb market, then I will. But we don't host one night stays. We'll go through that in a later video. But we do not host one night stays. You are just asking for problems if you do that. Just saying. There are different agreements that you can have, right? And I'm just going to touch through a few more points here. You can have a management agreement instead of a company let agreement. They are slightly different contracts. They do mean slightly different things, but both are effective for doing what we want to do. You can then also, in the world of Airbnb, you can go down the route of co-hosting. So actually you find somebody that's already got an Airbnb and you say, hey, I could do a better job than you. So why don't I help you and we'll share the profits. It works. But again, that's a different contract altogether. But you need to make sure that, and I'll keep drilling this point home, do not use an AST contract. Insurances, right? There are several insurances that you need to have in place. Okay. Public liability, professional indemnity, and director's insurance. Okay. I'll hold my hands up now and tell you that I didn't have director's insurance until quite recently. Okay. I went to a BNI meeting and I got talking to an insurance broker and they told me about director's insurance. I was like, yeah, that's genius. It's not a legal requirement for you, right? Public liability, professional indemnity are. Director's insurance is not. Please make sure when you're setting these up, you are using a broker who understands the world of rent to rent. You might get public liability off, I don't know, Go Compare with the meerkats, right? And it's completely the wrong policy. So you need to go to a broker that understands. If you want help with that, drop us a message, drop us a DM on any of the platforms that we're currently streaming on, and we'll happily help you with that. You need the right compliance in place. Okay. Basics are your redress scheme. Okay. So we use the PRS. Okay. This is mandatory. You have to have this in place. Okay. They're there to help you as well as help people, anyone that complains about you. Essentially, they're there to mediate and make decisions as to who's in the wrong, who's in the right, and adjudicate on things basically. And then AML. Now, if you are ever looking to deal source, then which is, we teach rent to rent and deal sourcing as a whole because it works quite nicely. We work on the 2-to-1 ratio. So you sell 2 deals, you take on a rent to rent. You sell another 2 deals, you take on another one. Okay, and it basically self funds itself. But AML, if you are sourcing, you have to have that in place. You essentially, it allows you to, it's your anti-money laundering is what it is. Okay. It allows you to actually be compliant. And then one other one is, it's gone from my brain. I'll come back to it. So to recap then, check your local council rules for planning, licenses, any other restrictions, get the landlord's permission in writing, use the right contracts, get your insurances in place, ensure you're part of the PRS and AML. Oh, that's it. ICO, Information Commissioner's Office. Now, the ICO is basically your data protection. It allows you to hold information about individuals. Okay, so that has to be in place. There's a lot to this, but I can guarantee you, if you sat down and you actually looked at it all, you could probably do it in about 3 hours and you'd be fully compliant, right? AML slightly longer, but all the rest of it, 3 hours, you're done. Okay, so it's not as scary as it sounds, and it doesn't cost as much as you think it would cost. Okay, all of that, you're probably talking, I don't know, £500-600 to get everything in place. So don't put it off. Don't try and avoid it. Make sure you're doing it the right way. Okay, next slide. Right. Financial tracking, right? And as I said at the start, guys, we are just running through the basics, like where to start today. Okay. I'll talk about what's coming in the rest of the series later on in the video. But this one is often overlooked. Okay. And even by my own mentees, it's overlooked. Even by me at the start of my journey, it was overlooked. Okay. You need to understand exactly how your business is performing. Okay. But you also need to understand, once you scale your business, you need to understand property by property, which ones are making money, which ones are losing money, which ones are hitting the targets that you originally set, which ones are over what you originally set, which ones are under. All of that information needs to be collected. And this isn't just for tax purposes. You can use softwares like Xero, QuickBooks, and all that sort of stuff to make that easier, right? It's also to understand how accurate you are being when you're analyzing the numbers. So if you've got one deal, you've analyzed it, you've got a deal, and then 6 months down the line, you go, really should have had more money out of that. What's going on? You need to understand every single month how much that property is doing. Is it hitting the targets? You might look at it and think, hey, it's fine. I'm 100% occupied, or I'm 90% occupied. Yeah, but how much has actually gone out in maintenance? How much has gone out in repairs? What nightly rate were you at? All of this information needs to be tracked. And as I said, this happens with my own mentees. They'll get all excited, they'll get their deals, and then I'll go, okay, yeah, how's the profit and loss looking on that? And they won't know. I asked somebody 2 days ago, I said, how much has that unit to date cost you? And they didn't have a clue, right? So you need to understand all of this information and do it now when you get your first deal, because then once you get your second deal, it's plug and play. You're already in the process of doing it. You already understand how to do it. Okay. Whereas if you wait until you've got 3, 4, 5 units, then you're like, geez, I have no idea. You won't have a clue. You won't know which gas supplier on your bank statement relates to which property. You won't know which water one is for which property. You won't have a clue, and then it just becomes, well, I think the business is making money. I don't really know. There's money in there at the end of the month, and that's not a very good way of running your business. So set it up right at the start in the right way, and then you will be absolutely brilliant and set up for taking on new units. Our motto is, if you treat it like a hobby, it pays like one. If you treat it like a business, it pays like a business. And this all comes down to tracking your numbers, excuse me, and tracking your KPIs. Cool. If we've got a free giveaway at this point. So if anybody on any of the platforms wants an Airbnb business setup checklist, then please drop a comment below. I believe on Zoom we might be dropping in the comments, but drop it in the comments, drop it below the video on the other platforms, wherever you're watching this. Drop us a message or just drop me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, Matt Dare Edwards, and we'll get the Airbnb business setup checklist over to you. We'll also probably advertise it tomorrow morning on the social media that you guys can see. Okay, next slide. Let's keep going. I think I'm running a little bit over here, but let's keep going with it. Let's keep going. If you're enjoying this, drop a comment, drop a thumbs up, something like that. Let me know you're enjoying it. Let me know I'm not just spending my evening chatting. Oh, there you go. In the comments on Zoom there, John's already dropped the giveaway. So please go and click that. We'll go from there. Okay, so next slide, this one. This is how you go from £0 to 5 figures a month. Okay, this is the roadmap, and this is actually the roadmap that we take all of our mentees on, and this is specific to us. There's not many people that actually do it in this order, and I'll explain why in a moment. So we start off with everybody in the education phase. Okay, you need to learn the fundamentals. You need to learn every element of this. Okay, by that I don't mean right at the start you don't need to understand what a channel manager is. You don't need to understand how to integrate that with your cleaning software and your pricing software and how to automate the messages. You don't need that information in your head right at the start. Okay, all you need to understand is, how does it work? How do you analyze the area? How do you analyze the deals? What deals you need to be looking for, right? How do you speak to agents? How do you speak to landlords? How do you secure them? How do you put offers forward? That's your initial education. And that's what we do with all of our mentees. So that's step one. Okay. That can take you a week, 2 weeks, a month. I don't have a crystal ball for every single person, so I can't tell you how much time that's going to take you. Step two is the research stage. Now, this is the bit that we're different on. Now, you can go out, and I apologize if somebody watching on socials is an advocate for them, but you could go out and you could find AirDNA, or you can find Property Market Intel, and it will tell you within 30 seconds how much the average nightly rate for, let's use Chester, okay? The average nightly rate for a 2-bed in Chester, and it will give you the average nightly, the average occupancy throughout the year. And that's great, but what it doesn't factor in is your stunning 2-bedroom penthouse apartment versus your 2-bedroom shitbox. Excuse my French, right? It doesn't know the difference. Okay. Now, as rent-to-rent operators, and this is specific to rent-to-rent operators, we can't compete with your stunning high-class, £1 million penthouse. We can never compete with that. We can't compete with your historic grade 2 farmhouse cottages, because we simply won't get them. Okay, so using data from that is completely wrong. So the research we do, and this is really vital, we dive deep into the area. Okay, so we extract, we spend a couple of hours, we just pull data from Airbnb, Booking.com, any platform we can find. We pull the data to understand exactly what nightly rate people are achieving. By doing it on the platform, you're seeing the photos of the property, so you can pick properties that that are comparable to what you could bring to market, your style, your standard, all the rest of it. You're looking at their diaries, so you can see how occupied they are, right? You're looking at the area on the map on Airbnb. Oh, well, actually, everybody, there's loads of Airbnbs down the bottom left corner of the city, but there's none up in the northeast of the city, right? So you're understanding, you're growing your knowledge of the area. The other research tools that we do, we'll jump on ChatGPT, say, hey, what's going on in Chester? Is there any redevelopment? Are there any major industries going on? Are there any projects? What's actually happening? We find out. We look at news articles, right? The council might just about to be doing a £3 gazillion bloody regeneration, right? We look at that and we understand so much clearer what is happening in that city, town, whatever it is, right? Yes, it might take you several hours to achieve that, but actually, I hope you can understand where I'm going with this. Your knowledge base off the back of that versus 30 seconds on AirDNA or Property Market Intel. Hey, Chester's got a nightly rate of 120 and a 65% occupancy. Cool. You don't know the area at all, right? Whereas doing it the old-fashioned way and properly understanding what's going on, you know it like the back of your hand. You know that you're looking for a particular type of property. You'll understand that actually 3 and 4 beds have got the best calendars. They're the most booked. The 2 beds, there's loads of 2 beds and their diaries aren't very good. So I'm going to avoid them. You only know that by doing the research. You don't know that beforehand. Right. So this is an area that we really, really do push home. The research stage can be the difference between you investing in a deal, thinking, yeah, it'll be all right, it'll be fine, or knowing from day one, actually, I know exactly who that's going to be for. I know what contractors we're going to be housing. I know what development's going on. Take here, for example, I could take a property on in Chester right now, and I know for a fact who would be going in it because I know that there's an industry about to kick off. I know that there's 500, 1,000 men coming to somewhere close to Chester to start a major project, and they need housing. So we know what the demand is. We know who's going in there. We know what price point we're going to be at. We know all of that before we even look for the property. We then jump into communication phase. That's number 3. So this is calling agents, calling landlords, messaging landlords, networking, speaking to the blokes at the pub, speaking to the people at the gym, speaking to somebody that when you're walking your dog, speaking to people at the school gate, anywhere. Just talk to people, right? The more conversations you have, the more aggressive you are in the communication phase, the more deals are going to open up to you, right? If you make 5 conversations a week, right? It's a bit of a part-time hobby for you. And you're like, yeah, I'll speak to that agent this week. And I spoke to them about it. It's going to be a very slow journey. If you are aggressive with it, if you're doing 10, 15 conversations a day, even 20 conversations a day, 30 conversations a day, 40, right? Then you are going to accelerate so quickly through the process. You're going to be going on viewings within, a week. And you'll be getting deals. You are far more likely to get a rent-to-rent deal direct to landlord than you are through a lettings agent, at least for the first couple. But that's the best way to do it, right? Is just speak to absolutely everybody. Now, 30, 40 conversations a day sounds like a lot, but the majority of those are going to be messages. Now, if I told you right now you've got 10 minutes, how many messages could you send in the next 10 minutes? I guarantee you could easily pick your phone up and send 20, 30, 40, 50 messages. So if you've got a template and you've done your research correctly, so you know exactly what property you're looking for, and you just jump on somewhere like OpenRent or Gumtree or Facebook, and you just scroll and you're like, hey, there's a 3-bed property in the right area. The photos look good and it's the right price. Send a photo, send a message. Literally 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever. And you've sent a message. The advantage of messaging is you can do it sat in front of the TV in the evening. The agents, you've got to call during the day. Now, there's one last bit on communication before we go any further. Oops, sorry, I hit the microphone. Get out there on foot. Get out there and speak to agents, okay? You are far more likely to build a network, build your relationship with these agents if you actually go in person and speak to them. We had on our last mentoring call last Thursday with our mentees, we had a lettings agent on the call. She's a good friend of mine. I met her through doing this about 5 years ago. We had her on the call and she actually said, look, go into the agents, take them a bottle of wine, take them a box of chocolates, take them some donuts, Go old school. The old school ways are coming back, and the old school ways are still winning. Okay, do that. Build rapport, build relationships. Excuse me. Co-sources as well is when you're just starting out, is a really, really good way for you to start making money from property when you haven't really got any, you haven't already sold a load of deals. So when an investor comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy a deal, cool. How many other deals have you sold? Like, what's your track record like? Can you showcase any of that? Right at the start, you're not going to have any. So if you find the deal, great, put it out there. There's WhatsApp groups, there's Facebook groups, there's all sorts. Put it out there. Don't be one of these that's just puts it on Facebook and hopes. Try and network and grow your pool of other sources. And I know that's ironic because I post a lot on social media, but a lot of that is already circulated. I do that as a secondary market. But network with these co-sources. So you'll have the investor, they'll have the deal, or you'll have the deal, they'll have the investor. Come together from a £3,000 source fee. You get £1,500, they get £1,500. Winner, winner, right? You grow your experience, you grow your knowledge, you grow your investor pool, and then you start doing them yourself. Number 4, implementation. Okay, so this is where you start getting on viewings, you start putting offers forward. This is a very crucial stage because if you're saying the wrong thing on viewings, if you're going into a viewing and you go, hey, I'm Matt, I can offer you guaranteed rent for the next 5 years. And that landlord stood there going, well, actually, I've never had any rent, void periods. That's not a compelling offer to them. Whereas if you go into there and you start asking questions, how long have you had the property? Have you had any problems with it? When did you last, when was the kitchen installed? All these little questions, what's your plan? Do you live local? They might live abroad, right? They might live local. They might be retiring soon, right? All these questions will give you an idea of what that landlord's problem is. And that's all we are at that stage, is a solution to their problem. But if I've gone in there, guns blazing, going, hey, guaranteed rent. 1, you don't sound very professional. 2, you've not found out what the problem is. So that might not be the solution. For some, it might be, but for a lot, it isn't. Okay, I guarantee you that. So listen, just have a conversation. Go in there, have a cup of coffee if you can, right? And have a conversation with them. Just find out. The amount of times I've done that where I've ended up going on a complete tangent, kind of like I've done on this call tonight, and ended up talking about something completely different and then gone, hey, we should really talk about this property, shouldn't we? It just builds rapport, builds a relationship with them very, very quickly. Then you go into, once you put the offer forward, and you need to sort of put those forward in the right way. Yes, the figure is important, but the solution to their problem is the most important part. Then you go into onboarding. So number 5. This is where you have to be planned. You have to be organized. So it's pointless you getting the keys and then going, right, what do I need? And then going to the shop, grabbing a couple of bits, coming back, cool. Oh, I need that, and going back. Be organized, have a shopping list, have it all organized, ready to buy, or buy it ready to go, get it delivered to the property on the day that you collect the keys or the day after, right? Understand exactly what room you're going to do in what color scheme, right? Because then you can tailor the soft furnishings, even the tables, the chairs, the sofas, you can tailor it to the theme of the property. Have it all planned. Right? Things like utility bills, all of that, it doesn't have to be done on day 1. As long as you've got the readings from the meters, you can do that in 2 weeks' time. Your priority when you get those keys is to get the unit set up as quickly as possible, get your photographer in there and get it live. Book your photographer as soon as you get the property as well, get the keys, because trust me, they can be very busy at times. So you don't want to be in a position where you're like, hey, I've finished, and then you got to wait 2 weeks for a photographer. So get that organized. And then growth. Once you've got that one onboarded and it's online, you've got your channel manager set up, you've got your pricing software done, you've got your cleaners in place, you've got your power team in place, your plumber, your electrician. They're not your employees, they're just reliable people that you want to work with. Once all that's in place and it's operating and you've managed to sort of perfect it, all your messaging is automated, so you're not having to message every guest. All the check-in information's done, reviews are done, all of that's automated. The business is set up and systemized. The only time you should get involved in that is when there's a problem. Now, sometimes you do get problems which are completely ridiculous. You'd be amazed how many people can't use things like kettles, toasters, TVs when they're away from home for some strange reason. But then there are obviously then other issues like the toilet's blocked or whatever it is where you need to step in. Okay. But that's the only time that you should be stepping in. You then jump into the growth phase. Okay. This is where you then start to expand. So if you want to do the 2-in-1 method, then you go away and you source 2 more deals. Then you take on another one. Or if you've got the funds in place and you're happy to spend them, great. You go out and you start looking for your next unit and you keep those relationships going. One thing I would say is don't take on one unit and then wait 6 months without speaking to the people that you've already built the relationships with. Keep in contact with them. If your plan is to wait 6 months between units, that's absolutely fine, but keep in touch with them. Okay, because what you don't want to do is then come back in 6 months and go, hey, Julia, do you remember me? And actually, they've forgotten who you were. Cool. I'm just reading in the comments there. Meeting schedule's about to end. Oh, okay. I think that was the note taking has just dropped a message in the meeting chat. Okay, I hope all that makes sense. Let's jump in. I promise you, there's not many more slides. I hope you're enjoying this. I am actually. Here we go. So just a couple of wins for you. So rent-to-rent wins from our mentees. So George is absolutely flying. He's really, really good at getting direct bookings. They do such a good job in their unit. To be fair, it is like a 5-star hotel. If I was a contractor, I'd be blown away if I was staying there. But quite recently, I think even 2 days ago, or maybe on Friday, he's had a long-term tenant in there, as in a contractor. They're coming to the end of their contractor. He's done such a good job. The property's so good that they've actually passed his details on to the next contractor that's coming to stay on site. And they've actually said, hey, can we book it for the next 5 weeks? Of course you can. No problem. Makes his life easier. And he's doing a very, very good job. I think over the winter period, which is obviously with Airbnb, when you get your sort of lower season, he had a 5-month booking in there, I think, through the winter. So he's done extremely well. Then Johnny has absolutely flown at this. He joined, I think, just before Christmas. He's secured units, he's sourcing units, he's absolutely flying, and he's getting 5-star bookings. 5-star reviews. So he is an absolute star. Really, really like working with Johnny. But he's just got this go-to attitude, and that's what you need within the world of rent-to-rent and Airbnb. You've got to have the attitude of, do you know what? I'm going to put my all into this for the next few months, but at the back end of it, I'm going to be able to put my feet up, and I'll only work six hours a week, maybe, if I want to, and I can work from wherever I want. Sarah's units were strategically placed in locations which we knew they were contractors. They're not anywhere near her. She went against the grain. So normally we say within an hour to an hour and a half of your home. Hers were not. And she's got places up in the northeast which are consistently, getting extremely good bookings. She's got places just outside of like Liverpool, between Liverpool and Warrington, and they're consistently getting sort of 3 months bookings. So she's doing extremely well. And then Mihai is our rising star, and I wanted to give him a shout out tonight. Mihai joined us. His job, he's actually, I think, special effects editor for like really, really high end, really big movies. He joined us and then had to immediately put it on pause because he got a new contract. But he joined us back up with us a couple of weeks ago, and within just a couple of weeks, he has been relentless, and I mean relentless. And he's managed to secure over the past couple of weeks about 30 to 40 units. Now, not all of those are going to work. He's trying to source a lot of those on. So not all of them are going to sell. That's the world of rent to rent, and that's the world of sourcing. You put deals out that you think are absolutely cracking, but unless the buyer is there to receive it, it's not going to go anywhere. And of all of those, I think a handful of them simply didn't work. The numbers didn't stack. But I wanted to put that there because he hasn't done anything special. All he's done is be very aggressive at the communication. That's all he's done. And he's managed to secure, I think it is close to 40 units over the past couple of weeks. So absolutely legend, that man. Okay. Question and answers, and then we'll jump on to the last slide, which I'll explain a little bit more about the process and what's to come. So if you've got any questions at all, please drop them in the comments, and we will answer them out. If not, we will jump on to the next phase. I can't, by the way, at the moment, although I've got two absolutely ridiculously big screens, I can't see the comments on Facebook and Instagram at the moment. Let's see if I can see them on here. No comments. Let's see if I can see them on here. No comments on there either. Cool. Okay. And no comments on or questions on Zoom. That's fine. Right. Let's jump into the last slide here then. Okay. So next steps. We'll run through this and then we'll go on with what's coming next week. We're opening the floor up for you guys. Anybody on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or on Zoom, if you want a completely free 20-minute call with me, this will not be a sales pitch. This will not be a pushy, sign up with me, run to the back of the room, get your credit card out. None of that stuff. Okay. If you want just us to have a conversation for 20 minutes, answer your questions, give you some advice, help put a plan in place of what your next step is, anything like that, anything to do with Airbnb, rent to rent, absolutely anything, please do. I think somebody will drop it into the chat on Zoom. If not, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. It is in our link tree. It is in our bios. Please do book a 20-minute call with me, and we can jump on and help you build a plan of how to change your situation. I'm not promising here to anybody that we will make you millionaires, because that's a ridiculous claim, but we can help you change your life. Okay, next Tuesday is week 2 of the Airbnb Made Simple program. This is going to be how to find your first rent-to-rent. Okay, so what you actually need to do, we've kind of touched on the compliance and the business setup tonight. Next week is all about actually what do you need to do to go and find that first unit. And we'll cover off, how to analyze the area, how to analyze the deal, and what you need to say to landlords and agents next week. So that's what's coming up. Over the rest of this series, we will be obviously delving deeper into more and more detail, but we just want to give you, over the first few weeks, a bit of an overview, and then we'll keep growing that knowledge as we go. I hope you've all enjoyed. I need to go and see if all of this is the first time, everybody, that I've streamed to 4 places at once. So I need to go and figure out if it even worked, because I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed. If you want to anything at all, conversation, a meeting, a strategy call, some advice, the download, the checklist, let us know. And we will send us a DM on any platform and we will get back to you. Have a fantastic evening, everybody. I now need to figure out how to close it all down.